Welcome to the FeelWell podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lauren Decicco, and today I have a truly inspiring guest. His name is Dr. Charlie Ware. He is a natural medicine physician with expertise in acupuncture, herbology, functional medicine, and epigenetics. He is here to share his incredible journey with us and give us a whole new perspective on natural medicine. So welcome, Dr. Ware.
Thank you so much.
Your story is very inspiring. You were diagnosed with sickle cell beta thalassemia. Yes, I want to make sure that I got that all correct.
No
as a
worries.
child, and you had a pretty dire prognosis at that point.
Yes.
But you beat the odds, and you've gone on to become a natural medicine physician. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey?
Wow, that's an easy question. I thought there were hard questions here, and I'm just joking.
No, we're going to
thank you
ease
so much.
into it.
Good. No, being diagnosed with sickle cell beta thalassemia, I was given the diagnosis of maybe 30 years, I'll be good, or I'll die then. But, I'm a farm boy. I'm a country boy. So I grew up, on a farm eating natural. So I think that's something that actually led me to this whole path of being a naturopathic doctor as well. Love baseball, played baseball, all through, my teenage years. Also played a little AAA ball. But my junior year, I was told that I could not play sports anymore because they had some more research and, with sickle cell and all that, you can't play sports. I begged my coaches to let me play. I was able to play. Long story short, my journey has been one of discovery for myself, but also more importantly, the discovery of what I see as my purpose of serving others with my talent. Always knew I wanted to heal people in some way, shape, or form. So going to Western Medical School and then dropping out because I found that for me, it didn't lead me to a path of healing because I was having sickle cell crisis in medical school. Then I went to natural medical school, which I was still left with a lot of answers just were uncovered. I had a crisis. I never figured I had a crisis. I was in clinic and had a crisis, and they're looking at me like, we don't know what to do with you. I'm like, some herb, whatever.
So you were in medical clinics.
Yes.
And they didn't know what to do with you.
Exactly.
In your medical crisis.
Yes. So, but that's what sort of led me to my journey. It's like, I have to heal myself. And,
Right.
And healing myself, has actually allowed me to help, hundreds of thousands of people around the world with it as well.
That's amazing because, you have two choices, right? You either take it for what it is or
Yes.
you decide that this isn't the way that my life is going to be.
Exactly.
And you definitely took that and ran with that.
Yeah.
So can you explain and elaborate a little bit more about sickle cell and that diagnosis?
Yes. Sickle cell.
And I think you specialize in this in your practice.
Yes, I do. It's one of my several specialties. But with sickle cell, it's essentially a red blood cell genetic disorder. Essentially, my red blood cells are not nice and concave and able to take the oxygen molecule around the body. A lot of them are actually flattened, but under the microscope, it looks like a sickle. Mm-hmm. So they're flattened. So essentially, that happened. So then also my father, I love my father, but he also gave me the trait of thalassemia. So thalassemia and sickle cell disease are very close. Thalassemia is essentially you don't make the enzyme. You don't make the enzymes to actually have the arms to hold on to it. The sickle cell itself, you don't have the actual gene that actually creates the sickle cell, the red blood cell to be nice and round. So I have both of those combined together.
So it's a double whammy.
Double whammy. I love you, parents.
Whammy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so with that, what we can experience is pain, organ loss, or organ enlargement. The walls of my heart are larger, my liver is a little bit larger. I have all my organs, however, but the most common one is the pain crisis, where it can happen anytime, any place, but there's usually triggers, and that's part of what I've done over my last 20 plus years of being in medicine, is really trying to learn the patterns of this. And it's not just, it just happens out of the blue. You have to understand your body. Mm-hmm. So I teach a lot of my patients on understanding who they are as a patient or as a person, or I teach parents how to teach their children on how to understand their body as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the most important thing for me is keep things as simple as possible while being able to elongate their life.
And so what would be like your typical approach? Obviously teaching lifestyle triggers, things like that. What else do you explore with these patients?
Well, I mean, like right now, the unfortunate thing is 2 of the medications that were recently put on the market for sickle cell disease have been taken off the market because they showed no clinical relevance.
Did you see any positive outcomes with those medications?
No, I never used them.
No. Okay. Because you stay
Natural.
Okay.
Yeah. The other one that they've been using for the last 20 plus years is something called hydroxyurea. It's a cancer medication that is shown to actually increase the fetal hemoglobin, which means like this almost the stem cells of the body, and shown some marked improvement. Other than that, there's no treatments for sickle cell disease at all. So for me, I had research for many years on just the basic ways to keep the body as healthy and in a homeostatic balance. So for me, beyond the lifestyle modifications is looking at, different ways to keep the body as healthy and healing as possible, knowing that we don't have enough oxygen already in our body. So that's when I also created supplements, and I created a supplement called Even Flow for sickle cell disease that we've had double-blind studied around the world, and even in Nigeria and Uganda, where it's the largest prevalence of sickle cell in the world. We're listed as one of the treatments for sickle cell disease with that supplement.
So what's in the supplement and how does it work?
I'll tell you what's in the supplement, woman.
Tell me all your secrets.
Exactly. It's actually 12 different herbs that I have found that when they're combined together, it's been shown to decrease the pain crisis, decrease hospitalization, increase hemoglobin rates. And children, because our last double-blind study was published in the Baptist Health Journal, it showed it actually helped increase the height and weight of individuals with sickle cell disease.
So is that typical that people have a difficult time putting on in maintaining weight and things like that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Because the nutrition isn't absorbing into their bodies, or what is the process with that?
The research shows that if you're a little bit hypoxic, your microbiome won't, absorb nutrients. It'll produce more inflammatory markers and things of that sort. So essentially, by us being able to give more nutrients to the body, more phytonutrients, the body is holding on to more nutrients, as well as now it's causing the individuals to thrive and not just survive. And that's always has been my motto: is I want to make sure that individuals are thriving, not just surviving.
Right. Yeah. Having some sort of quality of life, and
Yeah.
Is it still the recommendation of the physical activity is it still against the recommendations to be not playing sports or having high impact and things like that?
I mean, I have friends of mine that play professional rugby, who play football, American football, and also football. I always call football soccer. Americans call it soccer. So, but I have individuals who do all these things and have sickle cell. But the majority of individuals, they're very limited. The parents put bubbles around these kids. I've actually created protocols for travel because most people are afraid to travel. I can't fly because I have a little oxygen. I'm going to go into a crisis. I created protocols for flying, for also playing sports. The biggest one is swimming. Most of them say I can't swim because I go into a crisis, and I give them protocols for swimming. The large thing is also infections, because the spleen is one of the organs that's involved with the sickle cell process. And I have individuals who are able to battle infections very, very easily. Swim, enjoy life, be kids, and I love it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about epigenetics?
You just shift gears on me like that.
I'm shifting gears because I've been waiting to ask this question. Obviously, sickle cell is a genetic thing, but epigenetics is a slightly different scope, or how would you describe epigenetics scope?
Well, I'll tell you how I actually got into the study of all this, because when I was in undergraduate and also going to med school, I loved genetics. I was like, this is fascinating. Knowing my genetic condition, I'm like, okay, how can we do something with this? So essentially with epigenetics, what I'm able to control, even with my supplements, are essentially how the gene is being able to respond to a stressor inside of the gene or inside of the cell and also outside of the cell.
Okay.
So epigenetics is really a response to, do you have enough nutrients, or are you in an environment that's artificial, with different lights or all these other things. So we look at many different things. I use it with athletes. I use it with ordinary individuals. But I'm looking at essentially how can we do the most amount with the least amount to make the maximum impact on your genes. Mm-hmm. So essentially, like the gene, since it's something we call the genome. I call this soup. Like the DNA is like the main ingredient. Like you make a chicken soup, the chicken itself is the main ingredient. But you need the carrots, you need the celery, you need the water, you need the the stock and things of that sort to make the soup taste good, right? Mm-hmm. So essentially, that genome is all those components that make the DNA actually work efficiently. So a case in point, we learned that in our 40s and 50s, a lot of kids were born with neurological issues, like, brainstem issues. So we were looking at, why was this happening? So we found that the diet was lacking in folic acid, right?
Okay.
So you supplement doing prenatal folic acid, this, stopped happening. Why was it happening? Because folate itself is a huge modulator of the actual genome itself. It actually allows the opening and closing, or the FHR, gene, whatever. It helps to open and close, some of these genes. Mm-hmm. If you're a little deficient, this won't happen. So it's something it's called phosphorylation and also methylation, the opening and closing of the actual genes.
And that's a hot topic right now.
Very, very hot topic.
Yes, this gene mutation. Exactly. Essentially, a lot of people are exploring if they have this gene mutation or if they have an issue with the methylation and things like that. It's a really big trending topic.
I'm smiling because I'm a functional geneticist. So, and what this basically means is I'm looking at the function of your entire genome, not just one.
Right. But people think
it's just one.
Their conception of the information that's being...
Yes.
I know people are definitely looking for answers for why they feel like they do. And they're like, okay, that's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Exactly.
But what you can help us understand is that is not just, it's never one thing.
No,
right?
No. I have individuals that have a high methylation rate for the gene, but I'm like, do you understand that is it what we call like a master gene for detoxification? But I'm like, we have another that we know of 130 some plus genes that aid in detoxification. Mm-hmm. And also detoxification of what? Because there are different genes that detoxify for certain things, whether it be environmental toxins, whether it be, does the gene itself detoxify itself? Does the brain detoxify itself? Does the mitochondria detoxify itself? Does your skin detoxify itself eventually? We have genes for all that. Mm-hmm. And we look at it from different perspectives. So when we're looking at that one gene, we're missing out on the COMT gene, which is really in my opinion, the true master detoxifier. And it sort of says, okay, what we are going to allow in the cell and also out the cell. This other one, the MTHFR gene, is phenomenal, but it's not the end of the story. It's just telling you, hey, yes, you have a methylation issue where you just express everything. Like, hey, you just don't shut up. You talk all the time. What can we get to now to shut that down? And usually when I look at that, I'm like, okay, but do you detoxify it properly? Like, what's causing these issues? Is there a retrovirus that your body is actually genetically going to hold on to? Because there's some genes that actually code for, H. pylori. Like, you have a high risk for H. pylori. You have a high risk for, having environmental toxins. You can't wear perfume.
Do you see that in people that have symptoms of like long COVID, for example?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Even like the COVID, I say vaccine, also the virus was attacking certain genes. The ACE2 gene, it was taking the HER gene. It was attacking very, very specific genes that correlate with brain function, thyroid function, also gastrointestinal function, and of course cardiovascular function as well. So it was very, very specific genes that it was attacking. So that's why some individuals, perform better than not.
And so how do you test this?
Genetic testing. A swab test, send it off, and 6 weeks later, I get probably 150, 160 pages of data that I have to comb through.
Okay. And what is the number one thing you're looking for with that? What's your hierarchy of what you look for in the problem list and where you can address it?
I do personalized medicine. It's not. I'm not looking for a diagnosis. I'm really trying to see, hey, like, what are we looking for? Like, what are we working on? Are we working on with my athletes? I can find, hey, you're more prone to have cartilage damage. Mm-hmm. So let's make sure the knees and the shoulders are doing very, very well, or hips are doing well. And some of my other high performers, it may be like brain function, like how can we improve brain function? I look for detoxification. I look for inflammation. I look for hormones. I look for, like I say, sports things. I look for gastrointestinal things. It really just depends on what I'm looking for and what we set down. And I did a long intake to say, what are we trying to resolve and how we're trying to get there?
And what kind of things can change your epigenetics?
Everything.
I mean, your internal environment and your external.
And external. I mean, and I'm real big on this. People are like, you're crazy. I'm like, even the clothes you wear, yes, because like I got into wearing like linen, mm-hmm. Cotton and wool or silk. That's all I wear. If you look at all my tags, like, hey, you're right.
What is your reasoning for that?
My reasoning is because when I found out that everything affects our genes, everything. I mean, say for instance, you have someone that works in the office all day long, mm-hmm. and they're like, "Oh, I have these crazy headaches." Da, 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 da. I'm like, "Yeah, because you're not expressing the gene fully, because you need at the very least, 2 or 3 hours worth of sunlight on your skin in order for your body to really express certain genes. So you're having headaches because you have a metallization or detoxification issue now." Or your gut's not working properly because your body needs certain enzymes that's only coming from the sun, not artificial light. So everything affects the gene. Yes, lifestyle, diet, your stress management, how much you exercise. And those are the 4 pillars that we see that is the most impressive that's affected, but everything affected.
It could be something small that you're, and everything's like a bucket, right? So as soon as we like overflow that bucket, exactly. So it's not going to be one thing. It's going to be, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, exactly. A little bit of that. And then add in the fact I don't, or I start wearing clothes that have like microplastics or this exactly. or that in there. Yeah. That could be the drop that overflows my bucket.
Exactly.
So you're looking anywhere that you can improve the environment.
Exactly.
Even if it's like a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. Definitely. Overall clear out that.
I think that the biggest thing that we have an issue with, I say in general, is stress. And we quickly think that stress is only, my physical stress. I'm stressed out because I'm like, no. Stress, this is what stress really is. Stress is really just a response to a danger in your body or danger in your life in general, right? Mm-hmm. Originally, stress was, hey, you need to run fast because you have this thing trying to eat you. And now we think stress is, oh, I'm a 95, someone's trying to hit me. Oh my gosh, that's stress. That's not stress, Or I have a full schedule. I'm stressed out because of my schedule. That's not stress. This is our body saying we're in danger.
Our interpretation. Yes. It's our survival response, essentially.
It's not even that. It's more so our body's overloaded with something. We're having too much stimuli. Mm-hmm. So yes, I have this full schedule. I'm still overstimulated. Oh my gosh. So now I'm to really compartmentalize everything. But what is that stress really doing? That stress is actually causing our body to produce more inflammatory cells. So it's a gene called TNF, the 2 neurotic factors that, we produce, a lot of chemicals off of that either are going to stop tumors from happening or produce more stress mm-hmm. on our body. And we see that when people are overstressed, it produces more stress on our body. So we have to get that gene to turn itself back down. Another thing that stresses out is what we do even now, like the clothes or the perfumes or the soaps or the toothpaste we use. All those mm-hmm. things are unseen stressors that our body is still screaming about.
Right.
I have a great story where I have a patient I'm like, hey, you're definitely allergic to dairy. Like genetically, we see it in your microbiome, because I'm also a microbiome specialist. I do a whole genetic mapping for your microbiome. It's like everything showed up. You can't have dairy, period. Just don't have it. I used to use it's like a teaspoon a day. I'm like, and I gave the story. I'm like, okay, you have a teaspoon a day, not a problem. So can I come over to your house and punch you in the face every day? And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, how your body responds to that stress, that inflammatory rate is like me punching you in the face every day. You don't want that, right? No, of course not. So let's not have the milk. So those are little things that we look at, these little stresses that actually start to add up to be issues mm-hmm. over a period of time. Yeah. What we see genetically is like that is actually causing our genes to say, hey, listen, you don't want to be well. I'm going to keep, increasing these inflammatory things. So I need to protect you some sort of way. I'm going to give you what you want, but I'm going to get your body to sort of be in this survival state forever, because that's all you can ever do is just survive in these stress states. So what I try to do is get you out of these survival states into these thriving states. It's a whole shift into an area of where I want you to thrive. And that's really turning a lot of these inflammatory markers down.
Yeah, so I'm a physical therapist, but when yes, but in my practice, obviously, I'm approaching people with different issues and different things, but I still first want to make sure that their system's not stuck in fight or flight, because it's still in that pro-inflammatory. And in order for them to recover from that injury or that chronic pain or even autoimmune conditions and things like that, we need them to transition from fight or flight into a balanced state, so that, again, their body isn't responding to input as a threat, but instead going into that healing phase and transitioning over there. And one approach I use is nervous system regulation. And I like to stimulate the vagus nerve to send that impulse and that message to the nervous system that you are actually safe right now. And that signal of safety tells the system, I can stop attacking myself, essentially. So do you do any of those? Like, what are your techniques for stress control or transitioning out of that nervous system? Like, well, and like you said, so the nervous system, that fight or flight response, and those pathways from there control the inflammatory reflex and the immune response. And like the vagus nerve travels to all these things in your body that produce your immune system as well. And there's, scientific studies and stuff like that about this. And I mean, sadly, it's only been talked about in the last couple of decades, but the connection of it and the neurophysiology and even the psychology behind all of it is so influenced by the nervous system and how we present with like these inflammatory issues. So what are some of your ways to tap into that nervous system controller?
Easy way for me to tap into it is something that's very, very simple. And when I tell people this, they look at me like, what? I'm like,
I'm going to write this secret down too.
Sleep naked.
Sleep naked. Okay.
Why? It's because we have to realize that when we're sleeping is the only time during the day, the 24 hours, our body is craving to reset and repair itself. By sleeping naked, we found a lot of research is like you're getting to a better quality of sleep.
Okay.
So if you sleep with the television on, you sleep with your phone by you, and every time it beams, and actually a little light goes off and things of that sort. You know, when you're sleeping at night, that little light is actually causing your body to wake up genetically. Like, okay, it's time to do something.
The cells.
Exactly.
You're stimulating the cells to wake up in a time that they're not supposed to be awake.
Exactly. So I tell everyone, sleep in a cold, dark room naked. And you will start to find that your body is starting to reset itself slowly. It's the easiest thing and the cheapest thing for you to do is learn how to sleep more efficient. You're going to repair your genes, you're going to repair your gut, you're going to repair your nervous system very fast, very, very easily. I have individuals that have had Crohn's disease or IBS or irritable bowel syndrome or all these crazy things, rheumatoid arthritis, and we get them just to simply rest their body. Symptoms within 2 weeks start to go away.
Right. Yeah, because that's what you see is like people are stuck in those responses of the nervous system being dysregulated because they get nothing or any opportunity to balance themselves back out. And especially for like people that are on the go all the time and that's just their lifestyle here. The only chance you have is recovery during sleep. So, and do you use things to track that with people? Do you like people doing like wearables or anything like that?
And okay, so I used to be into all that. I used to be into like the wearables and all that. And actually, I don't even like to have my phone this close to me without it being on airplane mode or on my Faraday case. All these things emit some sort of radiation or EMF or whatever. So I said no. I don't even have my phone charging in my room. You know, my alarm clock is just my body wakes up naturally. And yes, I have the luxury of doing that, but I usually wake up around 5:45 every morning. And I start my day. No coffee.
How do you track your patients,
My patients,
their outcomes objectively and things like that?
well, the beautiful thing with me is I like to hold people's hand. And that's why I don't see like 1,000 patients at a time. I select, we interview each other, and I'm like, okay, let's work together. If you're really serious about this, let's work together. And, we text each other on a daily basis, some of my patients,
So you're getting feedback constantly.
I'm getting feedback to say, okay, I had this little boy recently. Unfortunately, age 14 is diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And the mom is like, I've done everything. I'm like, okay, well, let's sort of repair the gut, because I know he's had the antibiotic use early on in life. That's not working well. Of course, he has the iPad because, he's not feeling well, so I have the iPad right on his stomach. I'm like, do you know what that's really doing to his stomach? This gets some red light therapy going on. Because all these other things going on. And then anxiety start to happen, which is very, very common with, any sort of gastrointestinal issue. And then he went to like a anorexia type situation where he didn't want to eat because I don't want to feel any pain. So we had to sort of calm all these things down. And the best thing we did for him was all the electronics came out of his room. And we started to communicate on a daily basis. Hey, did he sleep? Yeah, I peeked in his room and he was actually snoring. And that's had never happened. She thought he had a sinus infection. Like, no, his body's resting now. That snoring is actually his body's going to a really, really deep sleep. And as I've even said yesterday, he was doing phenomenal. He's eating normal. He's fine. He's actually back in school and everything else. He hadn't been in school in over a month.
Right. So the outcomes are seen by their change and their function and their quality of life and the reports and things like that.
Yeah. And of course we do blood work and we follow, different markers.
You can see biomarkers that change over time and stuff like that.
His CRP within 2 weeks dropped.
Wow.
Within 2 weeks.
Rapidly.
And that's the thing. It's like, you look at these markers and we think, oh, it's going to take a while for that to drop. Like, no, I've even seen A1Cs, within like less than 3 weeks drop down from like a 6.8 down to like a 6. People are like, that's impossible. I'm like, no, because the body is now actually resting. That's all it wants. It needs rest. So that's the most simple thing we can do. And everyone's always like, oh, well, how can you sell sleep? I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm trying to educate you on how to be well. Not short term, but long term.
Right. And those are, easy things. We're not adding anything to your plate when we ask you those things. All we're doing is modifying your schedule and optimizing it.
That's it.
And that's the best homework you can give people that they actually follow through with because and they feel great doing it.
Yeah.
So the outcomes and the compliance and stuff like that is great.
Exactly.
So how do people work with you?
You call me up, DM me. Not DM me because I don't answer my own DMs. Essentially, I like to interview people as well as they interview me. They can reach out to me. On my website, drcharlieware.com, and it's a form that says "Work with me," and you can fill that out. But the reason why I can interview individuals is the fact that I know what I do is not easy. It's so simplistic, and I like to call myself the minimalistic doctor as well. It's so simplistic, most individuals don't understand it. Like, you tell me something totally different from the doctor. I don't have anything leaving your office or from our telehealth. You're not going to send me anything. I'm like, no, we're going to talk to each other on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, about the simplicity of how your body needs to heal itself. And that's it. Once it does that, once we start seeing these little changes here and there, we can go to other areas, Oh, well, should I be taking? Don't worry about what you're taking. Just do these simple things first. If you're making through these first 2-3 weeks, everything else is going to be simple.
So they contact you. You guys have an interview. Make sure everybody's ready for the
yes, definitely.
the journey.
Yes,
and then you just follow them along, and then
we decide if there is it necessary doing genetic testing. The one test I have to have on most people is my GI mapping, my microbiome testing.
It tells you a lot of information.
It tells me a lot. I'm like, okay, what's there, what's not there, what should be there, like what's overgrown, and it even tells me, if you have leaky gut syndrome, do you have a gluten sensitivity, but more importantly, it tells me a lot of genetic information about your resistance to antibiotics. Like, can you take these things, and if you have taken them, which ones have you taken? And this is probably the reason why all these issues are going on. And just the last 2 weeks, I've had 3 individuals that have this resistance. I'm like, whoa, and I know you've taken those antibiotics previously. So this is why we have all this overgrowth in all these areas. So let's just start there. You know.
That's awesome. And what is one takeaway, the biggest takeaway that you want people to understand from today's conversation?
The biggest takeaway I think everyone to understand is like surviving life is not fun, right? Thriving is a much more simple way of living your life, and it's also anti-aging as well. The biggest takeaway I want you to really get is when you prioritize one, sleep, and two, learning what your stressors are, your life is going to be 90% better right there. The other 10% is really about our habits. So learn your sleep patterns, learn how to prioritize, managing your stress, and not even managing your stress. What stresses are you pulling into yourself? Are we wearing these devices that are tracking us, different things? Are we on our phone too much or on a computer screen too much? And then when we learn how to alleviate ourselves of that, the next step is how we're going to repair ourselves. So by doing those two things, I think, the sleep and the stress management, 90% of your life is going to be easier.
Yes. Thank you. I really appreciate you sharing all this information. I think you really brought some clarity to what people are searching for answers for, but maybe in the wrong places. And I really appreciate you spending the time with us today. Thank you.
My pleasure.